What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mobile video. So today we are going to be talking about the patch notes for season 3. So before we get into this video, really quickly, I just want to apologize for not uploading this sooner. I've been kind of feeling a little bit under the weather, but yeah, I'm trying to at least thoroughly talk about each change in the patch notes as much as I can. Also, again, before I start, I do want to, I guess, forewarn you guys that the patch notes here aren't really too impactful. There are a lot of changes, but at the same time, they're not changes that make too much of a difference in terms of the meta. But it is still pretty interesting because there are some changes that might actually have a tiny bit of an impact. So the first change that we do have is for the Krig 6. So the range profile got improved from 15 meters to 26 meters to 17 meters and 30 meters. So basically the first and second range have been improved. The BSA also got improved by like 1. It's not really a significant change, but the only difference I would say is the fact that you get like 2 extra meters of, I guess, 3-shot potential. But other than that, that's basically it for the Krig 6. It just got a range extension that isn't gonna mean too much given with what we have in the meta. So now we move on to probably the biggest change of the patch notes that I could really find, and it's for the CR56 AMAX. So the range profile got improved on the second and third range. So those are the ones that got impacted the most. So it used to be 26 meters for the second range, and now it's 30 meters, and for the third range it went from 30 to 36. So this actually means a lot, and also with the addition of the lower arm multiplier increase, the 4-shot consistency went up pretty well. And this probably means that now with the addition of the 10% range on one of the gunner stock barrels, you're actually going to be able to make a lighter build without having to extend the range a bit too much. Because I've been seeing a lot of builds recently where it's like a nose stock with the long barrel and like the monolithic suppressor, and I know that usually weighs down the weapon a ton. But given that we have much more better range and a lot more consistency, we could finally have lighter builds with this gun. Another change that we have to look at is the M67 ammo. So prior to these patch notes, the upper arm multiplier was the only one that was like, I think at 1.0. Basically, it's the only thing that kind of destroys the consistency of the 2-shot potential that this ammo would provide for the gun. But now that it's been rectified, you could basically 2-shot from anywhere up to 40 meters. So that's actually pretty incredible for the AMAX. This actually makes it a lot more viable now. Other guns that have that type of conversion, you know, the Marksman conversion, such as the ASVAL or the Type 19, still have that inconsistency on one of the multipliers. But the AMAX after this update is going to be the only ammo conversion that doesn't have this type of issue where if you shoot in the wrong area in the body, it's going to have lower damage, so it won't be a 2-shot. So now it's going to be a 2-shot anywhere. And not to worry about it, I will be making a video on this buff whenever the season update comes out. So yeah, just make sure to look out for that. So for the Madx, this one's also a pretty interesting change, but I don't think it's going to be too impactful. So for all of you guys that use the Echo Fire mod, this is probably the change that matters the most. So for the damage range on the first 2 ranges got improved. So the first range went from 10 to 12 meters, and for the second range it went from 19 to 20. So again, if you just use this weapon with, like, let's say a range extending barrel rather than the Echo Fire mod, I mean, it's not going to be too much of a significant change. But for the Echo Fire mod, it probably means the world because, you know, with the addition of the multiplier increase, it's going to be a little bit more consistent and you could shoot a little bit further out. So for the Type 25, they increased the lower arm multiplier to 1.1 times. So as tiny of a change this might actually be, it might not actually be a tiny change, because whenever you're shooting at someone, they usually hold the gun up front. So mainly, sometimes you're going to be shooting, yeah, in the chest, but there'll be times where you'll be shooting in the lower arms. You know how they're holding the weapon. You might be able to shoot there, and this might actually help with the 4-shot consistency, specifically if you're using the stopping power reload. So it might actually be able to 4-shot a little bit better. Maybe not as much, but just a little bit better than before. So now we move on to the FFAR. So they increased the third damage phase from 17 to 18. So, you know, looking at this at first glance, a lot of you guys might think it's not really much of a big change, but it actually does change quite a bit because I did calculate the hit multipliers, especially on the stomach for the FFAR. If it's 17 times 1.17 times, it's going to land like at like 19 damage. It's not even enough to get you a 5-shot kill at that range. So once the number is increased to 18 and you multiply that by 1.17, you actually do get, I think, like 21 point something. So basically it's enough to secure a 5-shot kill, also including the upper arm multiplier. The only thing that stays the same is the lower arm. So there's still a bit of lost consistency, but I guess it's enough for you to actually be able to 5-shot a little bit more effectively at longer ranges. This is probably to, I guess, compensate for how strong the BP50 is. I only researched this with the task force barrel on, so yeah, it does increase the 5-shot consistency beyond those 20+ meters. So the ICR probably got one of the most pointless changes. They increased the lower arm multiplier from 1 times to 1.1 times. This doesn't really increase 4-shot consistency, or it doesn't really increase 3-shot consistency as well with the weapon. I don't really actually know what it does. I tried my best to figure out if there's any upside to this, but no. I mean, the damage more or less stays the same enough where you're still either going to get a 4-shot kill or maybe a 3-shot depending on how you're hitting the enemy, but this one really makes no difference at all. So the FR556 didn't get any range buffs, but it did get some buffs to the magazines. So for the fast reload, the increased reload time buff went from 15% to 25%. So if you do use that magazine, it's going to reload a little bit faster. For the extended mag A, something that I'm actually kind of thankful for, and I'm surprised they haven't done this sooner, they increased the mag size from 39 to 44. So yeah, you're going to get quite an increase of ammo capacity. As for the other stats of the weapon, I mean, the FR556, I think it's actually pretty fine for what it is, at least at the moment. But having a change like that is something that probably should have happened a while back, but I'm glad it's already happening now. Another interesting change that we have here is for the MX9. So they increased the chest and upper arm multiplier from 1 times to 1.06 times. And they also improved the BSA from 23 to 20. So it's going to be a little bit more accurate, but the one change that I'm interested in the most is the multipliers. So this one had to do a bit of calculation as well, especially when it comes to both mag styles, because I know some people like to use the hybrid mag, which gives you more ammo, and some people like to use the large caliber. The difference really is that we're now going to have the ability to have a better 5-shot and 4-shot potential in the third range for the large caliber ammo. But for the 45 round mag, you're going to be able to have better, I guess, 4-shot consistency in the second range rather than having it on the third range as well. That's really the only major difference. The problem with the MX9, how it currently is I guess the range drop off. I think it drops off a little bit too fast to the point where, like, I think by 20 meters, we already have to do a 6-shot kill to even secure a single kill. So I think, I mean, yeah, like, I guess at the time, the MX9 kind of deserved it because it was kind of overpowered, but given the state of the game right now, it's not really as feasible as it should be. COD Mobile is trying to bring up some of the weapons back to their prime, or at least somewhere near, or just enough to at least compete. The MX9, I would say it's probably the latter, just enough to at least compete with other SMGs. So I also was mistaken in the third range. With the large caliber ammo, you're going to be able to secure 5-shot kills a lot more easily rather than 4-shot kills. So it's more or less the same, but I guess you have more options for 5-shot kills with the large caliber if you do want to use that. So choosing between the large caliber and the 45 round mag is going to be kind of a difficult one, because both of them are going to be good in their own rights. One gives you more ammo, but one gives you a little bit more damage at long range. So I'm going to have to really decide which conversion I want to use. If anything, I would probably suggest using a suppressor if you're going to use large caliber ammo, since the third range doesn't really reduce too much of the 5-shot potential. But if you are going to be using the 45 round mag, I'd suggest just going loud and proud, you know, no suppressors at all, because you don't want to impact your range, especially for the third damage range, where you're probably going to have to get a 6-shot kill far more likely than the large caliber ammo. So a lot of people saw this change as kind of pointless for the OWC foregrip on the PDW. And I kind of understand the PDW is not really a weapon known for bad recoil. If anything, I would compare it to the cordite, where the cordite actually probably needs this attachment. But they did reduce a lot of the penalty, so you're not going to lose as much speed if you do decide to use this attachment. So finally, we have the M21 EBR. This is I guess like the last multiplayer change. So they increased the initial range from 10 meters to 14 meters. So Just in case you guys don't know what the initial range does, obviously, I mean, you guys already know it's the first range, but for the M21 EBR specifically, it's one-shot kill range. So the cutoff point was usually at 10 meters, but of course you could always extend that with like a barrel or like a suppressor. But that initial range got increased to 14 meters. So this actually gives you a little bit more room to one-shot with it. But not as much as, let's say, if you're using the SVD or the XPR with stopping power. Knowing that this is the semi-auto sniper that fires the fastest out of the three, it's probably for the best that it doesn't get as much range as the other ones, because it would be a little bit too overpowered. But I guess it's a welcome change. I don't really see a lot of people using this unless they're trying to grind out gold. So I decided to put these three together since they more or less have the same type of change. So the kilo bolt action got a head multiplier increase from 1.5 to 3.6 times. SPR got a head multiplier increase from 2 times to 2.6 times, and the MK2 got a head multiplier increase from 2.6 times to 3.6 times. So these are pretty incredible changes. These are mainly for BR, given that they already one-shot in multiplayer. So I'm assuming that changes like this is probably gonna help increase the one-shot headshot capability in BR. I'm hoping I'm right about this. I'm not really too familiar with BR stats, but given that there are changes this big, I mean, they have to do something. This might actually motivate me to use Marksman rifles, because I mean, I would consider myself to be all right with them. So I probably could land a few headshots in BR and just down people with one hit. So this one might actually be pretty interesting. So now we move on to, I guess, the final changes. This is just for score streaks, operator skills, and such. So the control field got increased active duration from 18 seconds to 45 seconds. So I know a lot of people kind of have an issue with this change, given that it's a little bit too much time. But keep in mind, I mean, if you're playing in ranked hardpoint, you're probably going to die within a span of 5 seconds if you get on the hardpoint. So most chances are they're probably just going to destroy pretty easily. So a change like this in the long run probably wouldn't matter. Well, I guess like in a realistic scenario, because like people are just constantly chasing that hard point. So yeah, you're not going to last long there anyways. So the Guardian, they increased the movement speed debuff from 25% to 35%. So basically you're going to move a lot slower with the Guardian. And for the Flame Knot, this is one of the changes that a lot of people also had a problem with, because I mean, the Flame Knot's already been reduced pretty significantly. You know, like 600 health already is enough for anyone to really take it down. But like decreasing the health down to 400, I think it's kind of pushing it, to be honest. It's kind of a costly score streak, but you know, it's starting to be less worth it picking it up if you're just only gonna die immediately. So I understand it was overpowered at some point, but I mean, there is such thing as, you know, overdoing it. But now we move on to the other change, which is the Serpentine, the increased damage resistance from 18% to 25%. So basically, when you're running around or something and you're getting shot at, you're going to take a little bit less damage. And for unit support, they increased the charge boost from 45% to 55%. And the final change of the patch notes is Firepower Support perk increases the chance of obtaining destroyed score streaks from 60% to 70%. So for all of you guys that call in stealth choppers and all that stuff, I mean, I probably don't recommend, you know, calling it in if people are just going to be using this perk, because they're probably going to get that same score streak. So yeah, this one's a pretty big change. So that's basically it for all of the patch notes for Season 3. So again, I mean, these changes aren't really significant, especially if you just look at it like initially. But if you do a little bit of research and I guess look at the multipliers thoroughly, some of them do make like all the difference in the world for those weapons, specifically with the MX9, the FFAR, and even the CR56 AMAX. I'm actually very interested in using those 3 weapons next season. I know they're not going to be meta, but I just want to see how improved they actually are going to be. Some of these weapons did need these changes. The FFAR was probably changed mainly for, you know, competing with the BP50. And for the MX9, it definitely needed that change because, yeah, the range drop off was pretty bad. And for the AMAX, I know, again, a lot of people usually use like long barrels with like monolithic suppressors with that one gun. But given that we're getting that range extension, plus with the gunner stock barrel getting that 10% increase, that actually gives you more speed, by the way. It actually is going to help significantly, because now you don't have to run a very slow build. You have more room to run a faster build. And I know a lot of people have had issues with the mobility, so this is a pretty good solution. Anyways, I hope you guys found this to be a little bit helpful. Hopefully I explained myself well with some of these changes, because I know some of you guys may have like overlooked some of them. But yeah, anyways, have a wonderful day, guys.